Today's video is all about protein and how to use it to positively affect your diet. Hello Ironside Army, and welcome back to part 3 of the fat loss series. If you've been following along, so far we've discussed the issues with obesity, how the human body becomes obese biologically, and how to ascertain your maintenance calories. In part 2, we discussed everything that you needed to know about carbohydrates and how they can affect your fat loss diet. And today we will discuss the macronutrient protein in all its glory. So, in contrast to carbohydrates, proteins are like the holy grail of macronutrients. Because of the popularity of protein, most diets claim to be high protein diets. Most food is labeled on the front with how much protein it contains as like a selling point. And it's obvious, protein powders and bars are sold everywhere. The other day I was training at a local Gold's gym, and in the middle of my workout I gassed out and I needed an intra-workout drink, which is simply just a drink full of carbs, right? So when I went to the counter to pay for it, I couldn't find anything close, and they had no idea what I was talking about. So you can easily tell like how the general public feels about proteins and how they have a phobia of carbohydrates just on that alone, right? So let's start this off by explaining what protein is and explain its roles in our lives. Protein is simply a molecule that's made of amino acids, okay? It's that simple. Proteins build and repair muscles and bones and create hormones and enzymes. So sometimes proteins can come from plants, but typically they come from animal sources, and they can also come from eggs, dairy products, seeds, nuts, and legumes. And as I mentioned before, as a rudimentary way of looking at things when I was discussing carbohydrates in part 2, carbohydrates come from the ground, and protein usually comes from living organisms. So if it flies, swims, or walks, chances are you're eating protein. Also, like carbohydrates, protein has 4 calories per gram. So now that we know what proteins are composed of, which is amino acids, and we know that amino acids help and repair the body, what can happen if you don't consume enough protein? So you may suffer from swelling, or also known as edema, mood changes, hair, nail, and skin problems, overall weakness, fatigue, hunger, and you also may have slow healing injuries, and or you may get or stay sick longer than most people. It affects the immune system. Also, protein is great for fat loss diets. Protein has been known for helping you feel fuller longer, which is great when you are eating a very low calorie diet. Another great benefit to consuming protein is that it has a much higher thermic effect compared to carbs and fats. So I mean, this means, and this is pretty substantial, this means that approximately 20 to 30% of calories consumed from protein is burned just in the digestion process alone. So this is why some diet coaches will tell you that if you need to cheat, or if you're too hungry, go eat some more protein. You know, they don't tell you to eat more fats or carbs. But due to this high thermic effect, protein makes the body burn more calories even when you're sleeping. Studies have shown that a diet high in protein can boost the metabolism and increase the number of calories burned by 80 to 100 per day. In some cases, while subjects were in a caloric surplus, they burned an extra 260 calories just by overconsuming protein that day. Lastly, consuming more protein on a fat loss diet will help minimize the amount of muscle burned while in a deep deficit. We don't like to admit it, but the body either gains or burns tissue, right? So if you eat in a surplus, your body is gaining tissue, whether it be fat or muscle. When you eat in a deficit, your body is burning tissue. It's getting rid of it, right? Well, that tissue can be fats or muscle. So when you get in a deficit and it gets to be pretty strict and you diet for a long time and things start getting tough, you better believe that you're losing some muscle tissue there. It doesn't mean you can't gain it back fast, but you would be. So eating a diet higher in protein will help sustain what you have for the most part, okay? If you don't eat a diet high in protein, chances are you're going to lose it, okay? So protein isn't perfect though. There are some little known alleged cons of eating too much protein. So before I explain this, I need you to understand that this has always been a controversial topic in the health and fitness world. Some of these claims have not been clearly substantiated, and the opinions of the experts sway individually. So just be aware of that. I believe my audience deserves to know what any, if any, potential risks are out there, regardless if these claims or not have been proven. So we're going to cover them. Okay, just keep an open mind. So first and foremost, eating too much protein can cause weight gain. Duh, right? And this is only because eating too many calories from any food sources, whether it be fats, proteins, or carbohydrates, will cause you to gain fat. It's a surplus, guys. So of course it will. It can cause bad breath, constipation, diarrhea, kidney damage. It says also an increased risk of cancer and heart disease. That's kind of new to me, but we're substantiating these allegations, right? So whatever. I've discovered during my research that most medical professionals do agree on a range of how much protein you should consume in a day. As an example, according to the article written by the Mayo Clinic, they recommend that active people should consume 1.2 to 2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight, while inactive people should consume less. They're saying 0.8 grams per kilogram of body weight. So for my fellow Americans who use the imperial system of measurement, if you're a male and you weigh 230 pounds, that would convert to 104.326 kilograms. If you take that number and multiply that on the high end, which is 2 grams per kilogram, you'll get about 208 grams of protein per day. This is of course different than what the fitness industry recommends, which is typical 1 gram per pound of body weight, right? And I want to add something to this. I personally disagree with the 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight because body compositions are different per individuals, and you could be eating way too much protein. So let's say I get a client and they're morbidly obese at 500 pounds, okay? You don't want him to eat 500 grams of protein, okay? That's way too much. So what you'd want to do is you'd want to calculate what his lean body mass is. And then once you figure out that number, you would want to do 1 gram of protein per pound of lean body mass, not per pound of body weight, okay? So what is lean body mass? Well, basically lean body mass would be the total amount of body weight without having any body fat. So think about a bodybuilder on stage during a contest. He's got veins and striations. There's a huge lack of body fat, and that's why you can see all that stuff. What they weigh on stage is very close to what their lean body mass would be. Okay, it's just a little bit off. Lastly, I want to address a common myth about the amount of protein needed while someone is trying to add more muscle to their body. Oh gosh, guys. I've heard several people comment about, when you're bulking, you need to eat even more protein, because it makes sense, right? Like protein equates to muscle, so you want more muscle, eat more protein. It's not true, okay? It's quite the opposite. The protocol for a fat loss diet is a higher emphasis on consuming more protein in your diet per day, while in contrast, during a bulking phase, in other words, like when you're trying to put on muscle, so you're gaining weight, you want to eat less protein while consuming more carbohydrates, okay? And all this leads us to part 4 of the series, where we'll be discussing dietary fats, and later I'll show you how to take the knowledge that you've learned to set up your own diet for you. So thank you for your support. Guys, also go to my website at www.ironsidearmy.com. I'm accepting new clients at this time. Also I have some merchandise for sale. Anything you guys need at all, feel free to reach out, DM me. I look forward to it. I appreciate your support, and until next time, guys, take care.